What's up guys, Happy Cat here, and today I'm bringing you a tutorial on how to create a very live streaming app. And as usual, this app is powered by Zegocloud services. So let me show you how this works. So I'm going to use one of the emulators here as the host. So let me start with what's on my left. So the host is going to set a live stream ID. So let's say 123, and then the host is going to start the stream. So I'm going to accept, and of course, if this was an actual device, you'll see. So let me flip the camera so that we don't see this horrible thing. So let's say this is the front of the TV, and now for this device we are going to use the same live ID, and that is what we want to join. We want to join this stream. So let's click on stream. So you can see it says no host is online because I haven't actually started the stream. Okay, so I'm going to enter the same thing on my physical device and also hit join stream, and of course I get the same thing. Now if I go ahead and I hit start, so both my physical device and then the emulator are seeing the main screen. Okay, so this is the one streaming, and then this is an audience, and my physical device is an audience. This being the host has the power to remove these users. So one of these is the emulator and one here is me, my physical device. Being the host, I can chat. So I can say, let's say, hey guys, oops, can you, if I can type with one hand, can you see the screen or stream? And then I'm going to send this message. And once I send this, you can see this shows up on my phone and this shows up here. So I'm going to say yes, and then send this here. And of course this shows here, this also shows on my phone. So let me reply from my phone to, so let's say yes, it's awesome. And you can see that shows up here. So this is really, really cool. And then being a host, I can beautify, so skin tones, you can play around and all of that. You also have access to audio sound. So if you wanted to sound like a little girl, deep voice, my favorite is Optimus Prime, which is right here. And they are quite an awesome number. Okay, you can also set audio reverb, you can flip your camera, you can turn off your audio. As you can see, this guy, the audience here can see it, or you can turn off your mic in case you had to speak to somebody. And all this is just with a few lines of code, just a few lines of code. So also, if let's say I'm done with the stream, I can simply click here and then stop. And since I'm no more streaming, you can see we get back to this screen that says no host is online, and you can see we are just two people, my physical device and then the emulator. If I start the stream again, then so let me click on start, then you can see the two devices will be connected again. So that's it, and let's see how we can do this. The simplicity of this app is made possible by Zegocloud. Zegocloud is a global communication service provider that provides developer-friendly, powerful SDKs and APIs to help you integrate common features that we are used to seeing in our day-to-day voice and video chats, live streaming apps, and so on. And they are trusted by over 4,000 businesses. Okay, now one of my favorite features is their pre-built UI kits. You don't have to worry about how your UI is going to look. You just need to implement the code, and it's just a few lines of code. It's mostly termed as low code. Okay, and it will take care of the UI and give you the common features that you normally see. As you can see, they provide a lot of powerful SDKs and APIs for almost all the platforms that are out there. So you have for native Android, iOS, web, FLUTTER of course, React Native, Windows, macOS, and Electron. And you can check at the top bar here and you can see all the services and products that they provide. So let's see how we can get started. So to create an account, simply click on sign up. On the create an account page, simply go on and enter your details. So like your first name, your last name, your country, your email. Once you are done entering your email, click on get code. You get a code sent to this email. Enter that code here, create your password, accept the terms and conditions, and then start your free trial. Now I have an account already, that is why I do not want to create an account, and I'll link a video in the description in the previous video where I took you step by step how to create this. So I'll go ahead and then log in into my account, and I'll see you when I'm done. Alright, once you are done, you'll be brought to this console. Now I should mention that this is the second time I'm recording this, because just when I was done my PC went off and I lost everything. So that is why you can see the live streaming here. But don't worry, I'll start from scratch and then we can do this again. So once you sign up, you get 10,000 free minutes. That's about 100+ hours. So you can use this to create a lot of applications for your portfolio. So once you're here, if you haven't created any application before, you wouldn't see this. So go ahead and click on create project. And as you can see, as mentioned earlier, Zego provides so many developer-friendly SDKs that you can use to build different kinds of application. You can see how many they have, okay? In this tutorial though, we will be concentrating on the live streaming. So simply select that and then hit next. Now the next thing we have to do is enter the project name, and this doesn't have to correspond with the project you created in VS Code. It doesn't really matter. So let's call this, let's say live underscore stream, and let's add app. So once you've had the name, you can come down here. Now, as mentioned earlier, Zegocloud provides developer-friendly UI kits, and this simply means that you do not have to worry about how your UI is going to look like, especially the live stream UI. This is going to take care of it, and you can see the various platforms they support, and of course FLUTTER, and this is all we need to get this working on FLUTTER. However, if you want to have control, then you can use your powerful SDKs and then customize the UI as you need. But in this tutorial, we are going to go with the UI kit. So click on start with UI kits. So once your project is done building, you can leave it. It would go to the next screen, or you can click on start building. So it took me here. Now, once you're here, you choose the platform you want to build for. So in our case, it's FLUTTER. So go ahead and select FLUTTER. And once this is loaded up, you get this nice interface showing you the possible things you could build. Now, what we want to simply do is go ahead and click on save and start to integrate. Once you do that, you'll be brought to this dashboard or console where you are shown your app ID and your app sign. Now, these two are important when it comes to getting this to work. So take note of this. We'll be back here soon. So let's click on the quick guide, so quick start, and then we are brought here. As you can see, there's a very short tutorial here that you can get yourself up and running. But all we have to do is follow these guidelines and we'll be up and going. So you can see this is just a short snippet of code that we would have to write, and that will be enough to get this working. So first things first, we need to add this to our pubspec.yaml. So we can just copy this and head to VS Code. Now in VS Code, you can go to your terminal and then you can paste this line there. Now, most often when I paste it with PowerShell active, I do get some errors. So I'm going to switch this to get bash and then drop this in there and hit enter. Once that's done, you can check your pubspec.yaml file, drop this down a bit, and you can see the Zego UI pre-built live streaming dependency. It's here. Now you can also go through pub.dev and then just do the same thing. So this is one way of doing it. So let's head back and see what we have to do. The next thing is to import the SDK, but where do we import this SDK to? So we need to create this live page, as you can see here. Now, I don't want to just copy this and paste. Personally, it doesn't feel really interactive. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and create this page. So what I'll do is switch to VS Code and then let's get this page created so that we can use the SDK. All right, so first things first, let me walk you through what I have done. So I simply cleaned my main.dat and then I created a new, oh my god, guys, look at what I wrote here. So let me go ahead and fix that. Okay, so I'll head back to the home screen and then quickly fix that. Sorry for that, guys. So all I had to do was just select, press F2. F2 is the refactor key, and then I typed the right thing now and I hit enter, and that should change wherever I made that mistake into the right spelling. So let me take this again. So in my main.dat, I cleared everything. The theme, I made it dark, as you can see here. I also removed the debug banner, and then you can see the home screen that I created. Nothing here, is just a stateful widget, and literally that's it. So what we are going to do is go to the lib, create a new file, and let's call this live_screen.dat and then hit enter. So this is the live page we are going to create, and then here we want to return a stateless widget. So we can go with STL, a stateless widget, and then here we want to call it live screen. And that's just about that. And then here we do not want to return this placeholder, so let's go ahead and get rid of this. What we want to return for the meantime is a safe area so that we are safe, and the child of this safe area is going to be the Zego UI pre-built live streaming. That's a mouthful, so let's go ahead and get that. So Zego UI pre-built live streaming, and then what I'm going to do is just switch this to the side so that I can add a comma at the ends here so that this can be properly formatted and we can have a good look at them. So you can see the requirements. So let me go ahead and get rid of these since we don't need them. So these are the requirements: an app ID, user ID, username, live ID, and a config. Okay, so we'll see how we can get these done as soon as possible. So the app ID and the app sign, like I showed you, we have that in our console. So before I go there, I'm going to create a new file. I'll call it secrets, and this file is going to hold all those keys. So we're going to create a class called secrets, and this class is just going to have a static const, and then we are going to call this app ID, and we are going to put a semicolon here for the meantime, and then we have a static, another const, and then this is going to be our app sign, and then this is a string, so we can put this there for the meantime and then wait. So let's head back to our console. So once you're back here, just go back one step. This usually opens in a new page, so go back here and you can see your app ID and your app sign. So go ahead and copy it, head back to VS Code and then paste it in your app ID, and then head back again to the console, copy your app sign, head back to VS, and then let's paste that in the app sign. And that's it for the secrets. So let's head back to the live screen, and then we can come here. So the app ID, we can call secrets, and then we assign the app ID, and then we do the same thing for the app sign. We assign the app sign. Now, things like the user ID, we can generate this randomly using the .mad library. But if you had like a login system where people sign up and they have their usernames and passwords and stuff like that in your database, then you can pull your app ID, the user ID from the database and then use that here. But in our case, we don't have that. So what we are going to do, I'll go to the very top and then create a final user ID and set this to random. And this is coming from the math library. So you can see that's imported. And then we'll say .next int. And then the maximum we want to have is, let's say 10,000. And then we end this. Now you notice that if I hover here, you can see that the type there is a string. But what we have here is an integer. So let's convert this to an integer so we can use the to string method. And now you can see that automatically picks up the user ID. Now, what do we do about the username? Now the username, I could hard code this, but then everybody would have that same name. So what I can do is, I'm going to make this a string, and then what I'll do is I'm simply going to remove the user, put in an underscore, a $ symbol to concatenate, and then add the user ID. And what this is going to do is whoever is running the app, whoever joins the live stream, including the host, we are going to see user and a specific number that is generated from here. So if we generated the user ID to be 200, then we'll see user underscore 200. I hope that makes sense. Now, what about this live ID? So this live ID is like a meeting code or the live stream code that whoever wants to join your live stream needs to have to be able to watch your specific live stream. So let's go ahead and see that. So this, we would want to take this from the user input. So what I mean by that is when we start the app, if I am going to start a live stream, I will enter the code I want. So I'll generate my code and then send that to whoever wants to watch my live stream, and they will use that. So I cannot hard code this here. So what we are going to do is whenever we want to navigate to this screen, then we can have access to the live ID, which will be passed on from the host. So enough talking, let me just do that so that you can understand. So let's go ahead and then create a final string, and then we are going to call this post live ID. And then I'm also going to create a final bool and then call this as host. And then you soon understand why I have this. And I'm going to add final parameters here. Now, there is host, so let me put a comma here. Is host isn't going to be required, and I'll explain very soon. So I'm going to give this a default value of false. Now you can have, one has to be a host being the streamer and the other would be the audience. Okay, you can have two people hosting on the same app. Okay, so by default we are setting this to false, but when the host is going online, we will dynamically switch his to what? True, so that he becomes the host. And then that will help us configure the UI that the users are going to have. So the host is going to have a host UI, and then the audience is going to have an audience UI. And this is going to help us achieve that. I hope that makes sense. So for the config, we are going to use a ternary operator to check is host. So whoever is starting the application, is the person a host? So that's the question we are asking. If that person is a host, then we want to return the Zego UI pre-built live streaming config. Okay, another mouthful. So let's go ahead. Zego UI, and I think this is it. And then we want to access the host. So that is if the person is a host. What if the person is not a host? Then we want to return the opposite. So the opposite is going to be audience. That is what we want to return. We format this so that we can look at this properly. And literally that is it. That is it for the live screen page. Now we can head back and you can literally just check and see whether you've got everything right. Now, if you didn't want to go my route, you could just copy this and paste it and then make life a lot more easier. So after this, we need to configure our project. So we need to do a few things. So here we are being told if we created our project in FLUTTER 2, I think by now nobody should be there, but you never know. Then we need to access our build.gradle in our app and then change the compile SDK to 33. So let's go ahead and do that just in case somebody is still behind. And then after we do that, we also need to add permissions to our Android manifest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the manifest so that I don't have to come back here immediately. So let's head back to VS Code. So back in VS Code, we need to get to build.gradle. And you can find that on the Android app and you have build.gradle. So scroll down and get rid of this. Scroll down and then look for where you have Android and you have the compile SDK. Now I'm going to go ahead, get rid of this and then set this to 33. Now another thing they didn't mention, but I suggest you do is scroll down a bit and look for the minimum SDK version and then set that to at least 21. Okay, and that's that with the build.gradle. Now the next thing is to access the app manifest. We already copied the permissions and we can find that under the source, which is src, the main folder, and then the manifest file here. And we want to place this on top of application. So I'll give some space, paste the permissions, and let me just make sure all these are lined up properly. And then these are the set of permissions that we need, and that's that. So let's head back to Zegocloud and see what we have to do next. After we've pasted our permissions, we need to create a proguard-rules.pro folder file so that we can prevent obfuscation of our classes. Now, obfuscation is, if I can explain it this way, so let's say you have your executable, people can hack and then reverse engineer it. So obfuscation jumbles up the code so that people don't really know what you have there. And sometimes these can affect your classes. So this is to prevent that from happening. So we want to keep our classes safe. Okay. So let's go ahead and create this. I'm going to copy this file name. I don't want to type that. And this is supposed to be in our project, Android, and then app. So let's head back to VS Code and then let's go back to our project. So let me twirl down this. So our project is here and then it is supposed to be in the app folder and not inside source. So in the app folder, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to paste that name right in there. So you should see the proguard-rules.pro and then the build.gradle be in the same line, but not inside the source. Heading back to Zego, let's copy this line of code, copy that, head back to VS Code, and then paste that. Head back to Zego. And at this point, we are done with Windows configuration. And I'm not going to do the iOS part, but it's just simple. Just follow the instructions like I have done. And then you can simply go ahead and then set it up if you are on iOS, okay? In fact, if you are going to build this application for both Android and iOS, then you should do this, but I am just not going to do that part. Okay, it's a very simple step. So at this point, we need to build our application again and run it. So let's head back to VS Code. Now back in VS Code, you realize that there's no way we can set our live ID, join a stream. We don't have that. This is just a blank screen. So let's go ahead and then create something very simple so that we can have that access when we need to. So I'll head to the home screen here and I'll start working on that. So right over here in the scaffold, I'm going to set the body property, give it a column, and then let me get rid of the const for now so I don't have any issues. And then for the column, so let me format this a bit. The column, we are going to have some children as usual. Now the first child of this column is going to be a text field, not text, sorry. In fact, I'm going to use a size box, and I'm going to set the width of the size box to, let's say 300 for now. And then the child is going to be a text, did I type? A text field. And then for the text field, I'll set the style, text style, and then set the font size to something like 25, just so that the fonts are bigger. So let me just put some commas here at the end so that we can format it and have it looking okay. And then let me go ahead and then add const modifiers everywhere so that this is clean. So let me get rid of the const from here and put it here for the meantime, so that we can see what we are doing. Now, if I should save this, you can see we have a line here, and this is actually too much. So I'm going to set this to, let's say 200 or 150. Yeah, that's fine. And you know what? I'm going to put the column in a center just like that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is set the main axis alignment and set that to center so that this is in the center right here. So let's go ahead and then style this text field. So what I'm going to do here is call the decoration property and then use the input decoration. And then here, the border, I want to set the border to outline input border, put a comma at the end so that this is formatted nicely. And I'm going to save this, and then this is what we have. Now, the next thing we need is to have two buttons, one to start a stream and one to join the stream. So I'm going to go ahead, call a size box here and get a height of about 30 of spacing. Then I'm going to use another size box, and then the height of this size box is going to be about, let's say 70. And then the width of this size box is, let's say, I have no idea of the width here, but let's say 200 for now. Then let's save this. Of course, you wouldn't see anything. The next thing I want to do here is set the child, and the child is going to be an elevated button. The onPress for now is just going to be an empty function, and then the child here is going to be a text widget, and then this is going to start. So I forgot to put my string, so let's say start stream, just like this. And of course, this is complaining that it is not a valid constructor, and that is because of this. I'm going to remove this. Let's use the light bulb, then add const modifiers everywhere. Now let's format this a bit. So let me save this and actually see what it looks like. Put a comma here. So this is just what we have, quite a very tiny text. So let's go ahead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal the style that I had here a bit and then just paste it. And then I want this to be bold. So let's go for the font weight and make it bold, and that's fine. And then all I have to do is copy this, including that size box, because we need spacing again. And then this would say join stream. Let's save that. And then this is what we have. And this is going to be the very simple UI we are going to use here. So let's go ahead and configure this so that we can navigate to the live screen. So for the start stream right here, we want to navigate. So navigator.push, and then of course we are going to use a material route. And then our builder is going to be context. And then we want to return our screen here. So I'm going to use the fat arrow and I return the live screen. Now the live screen here requires a live ID. And how can we get this live ID? Okay, so let me go ahead and put some comments here. So this live ID, we are going to get it from the field here. So this is what I was explaining earlier. If I'm going to start a stream, I'll enter a specific ID here. And then when I hit start stream, the live ID would be passed to the constructor right here, which will be here and then used over here. Okay, so that's just the idea. So let's go ahead and then create a controller, since we need a controller in this text field to access the text. So down here, I'm going to say final, and then let's say live controller, and then this is going to be a text editing controller. And then we can dispose of this method, get rid of the to do, and then we simply set this to live controller.dispose. Now we can go to our text field, and then for the controller, we go ahead and then assign the live controller, and it's going to say it's an invalid const value. So I'm going to get rid of this and then use the light bulb to fix the const right here. Now for the live ID, we are going to get that from whatever we type in here. So over here, we are going to say the live controller, and then we want the text that is there. So if I save that, that's that. Now I probably would advise, if you're building something serious, you want to wrap this entire thing to be scrollable, because your keyboard may pop up and push all of this. But this is just a simple app for you to see how to integrate the Zego pre-built UI kits into your application. So for this next button that says join stream, we literally want to do the same thing. So I'm not going to type all this again. So I'm going to copy the entire thing here, move down to where we have join stream, that is here. So in here, I'm going to paste this. Now for the join stream, I'm not a host. You understand? I'm not going to be a host when I'm joining the stream. So what I'm going to do here is, when I go back to this page, I can access the is host and set it to true. And for this screen, I don't even have to do that, because by default, we set is host as false. So what happens here is that when you set an ID here and hit start stream, then your is host is set to true, which means you are a host. And since you are the host, then this option is true. Then you are going to get the UI for what? A host. Now, if I'm joining a particular stream, when I hit my button to join stream, by default is host is false, meaning I'm not a host. So when this is checked, this is false, then I would receive this UI for the audience. And that is all that there is to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. So you want to stop the application, and then let me tore all of these back up, head back to main.dat, and then rerun the application. This is because we've changed a few things in the build.gradle and in the permissions. So we need to rebuild everything so that everything is well built, if I can say that. I'll see you when it's done building. So this is done building, and don't worry, you'll see some messages about deprecated API. That doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and test this to see if we have everything working. So I'm going to click in here and set an ID of 123 just to say. You could also make this center aligned, but for now, let's start stream. So I hit start stream. You can see the permissions are working. So I'm going to say while using the app, and then for the audio while using the app. Now you can see if I were using my physical phone, then this would be my face, the front camera. And at this point, the stream hasn't started. I could actually flip the emulator camera here, and then this is what we get to see. Okay, so when I hit start, then I have started the stream officially. I can chat with people, so I can say hi. So enter doesn't work. So just like that, if others were here, they would also see this and reply, and I would also see it. Now, if I click on this option on top here, so this is the audience list. For now, I'm the host. I'm just the only one that is here. And you have face beautification options. You have voice options. You can sound like a little girl, deep. My favorite is Optimus Prime. Really, really awesome. And then you can also choose the reverb you want. So all this is coming from the Zego UI pre-built kit. And that is just me being the host. And that is what I am getting. Okay. You can switch your cameras, turn them front and back. You can mute, turn off your video, or you can mute yourself. Okay, now while you are here, if you had a lot of audiences, you can actually delete them. You have the power to do that since you are the host, or should I say remove them. Okay, so what I'll go ahead and do is install this application on my physical device and then show you how this works. I'll see you when I'm done. So I went ahead and installed it on my physical device. So I'm going to use my phone as the host. So I'm going to enter simple 123. And then I'm going to start the stream. So I'm just accepting permissions here, and I'm going to hit start. So once I hit start here, I'm streaming and then there's nobody. So I'm going to the emulator here, enter the same 123. So that is the live ID. And then this time I'm going to join the stream. So once I hit join stream, you can see this is what the stream people will see. I'm hearing my voice again, so it's tripping me. So me being the host, I have the options to do a number of things. I can get rid of people. So if I tap here, of course you wouldn't see what I'm seeing, but you can see I can get rid of the emulator. So I'm actually going to remove that user, and you can see I was able to remove that. Let me join the stream again, and then you can see this is my screen here, and I have all the options as a host. Now if I should type, hey guys, can you see the stream, and send this, you can see that shows up here. And then if I go ahead and then also type here and say yes and send this, then I also see that on my screen. Okay, so this is literally a very simple live streaming app made powerful by Zegocloud. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next tutorial. Take care.